Hi, this is Shelley Kraft coming to you live on SNNLive. We're at the SEMDA conference in Southeast Medical Device Association 2014 right here in Atlanta, Georgia. I have with me Dr. Matthew Gevaert of KIYATEC, K-I-Y-A-T-E-C. It's a private company. Dr. Matthew, welcome to SNNLive.
Shelley, I'm grateful to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you. Now, please tell our audience a brief overview of KIYATEC, please.
Sure. At KIYATEC, we want to change the conversation between cancer patients and their doctors.
So what does that really mean, and how is it done today, and what's new, and what are you innovating?
Sure. Well, today, if someone has cancer, and I guess I'm going to be a little bit blunt here, but the conversation goes like, patient, you have cancer, we're going to give you therapy, and we won't know if it works until we try it. So we'll find out in about 3 months, and if it doesn't work, we'll use plan B. And we want to change that conversation into something that sounds like this. During your surgery or during a biopsy, we sent your cells away to a company called KIYATEC. They're going to test your cells, your living, live, responsive cells, against the 5 best options for you. And we're going to pick B because they said you're going to respond strongest to that. So we've transformed that conversation from one that's trial and error, which is now, to one where the clinician is really empowered to make decisions about that particular individual's therapy based on data.
I got a weird question.
Sure.
What impact does that have on second opinions?
Wow, actually that's not really one where we had to explore that much, but basically that would provide an objective second opinion of sorts in the sense that we're asking the cells. So in a very real sense, you're getting a second opinion, you're getting a first opinion from your cells, and the doctor then is sort of confirming that by their judgment that our test is actually predictive, and we're working hard to provide the data that's going to give doctors comfort to say, yes, we believe in this test, it is actually predicting real drug response.
So I also think that probably has something to do with both doctors looking at the same data, which is where I was going.
Okay. So yes, so in a world of trial and error, there's a lot of room for bringing your past experience because you tried something on a patient before and it worked. And that's where you can get a little bit of, maybe a different direction for multiple doctors. But in this case, we're giving them one data set that came from that person's cells, and it would guide them in a way that they're not being guided right now. And frankly, we've talked to a lot of them. They really want this. They want to move away from trial and error. They want to move to an informed decision about which drugs they should give any particular patient.
I have to ask you, how large is this market? I can only imagine how big it is.
Yeah, so in truth, it is a big market. If you look at just ovarian and breast, which is where we're focused on immediately right now, and where we're actually taking in patient cells and doing these kinds of tests, that market for new diagnoses only in the U.S. at a typical price point for a reimbursement here would be about $750 million. And then because the platform can accommodate other solid tumor types, it's potentially bigger than that, but we're being a good company and focusing initially where we need to, and then we could build out those other solid tumors over time.
What are the next steps? Do you need FDA approval? Have you gone into patients? What phase are you in? And what's the next step for the company?
A great question. So we actually have data already from existing clinical studies where we've used patient cells. We've made predictions and seen them correlate in an exciting way against clinical outcomes and against genetic mutations. So there's an aspect of this where we can correlate against the presence or absence of genetic mutations, which is very important for targeted therapies and targeted therapy strategies. So for us, we just want to do more of that. We want to get our initial small data set into a larger one. We'll do that. We're actually located inside a hospital. It's very exciting to be in a clinical environment. Through that relationship, we get access to patient cells under IRB. It's all very nicely zipped up, and then we get the long-term clinical access. So we want to expand that with our on-site partner, and then leverage that into multi-site randomized controlled trials in the future.
A couple more questions.
Sure.
Who came up with this and why?
Well, so I'm one of 2 co-founders in the company, and we both were doing graduate work, Ph.D. work at Clemson University, where there was a big focus on basically tissue engineering and regenerative medicine, which is the idea of making things that are, like your body to put back in there. we recognized that for an invention that my co-founder had out of his graduate work, that there was an immediate opportunity to translate that not into implantable, things that you put in the body, but rather into things that we can do ex vivo outside the body that don't quite have the regulatory path that implantables do. And so it was a recognition from the start off of his invention, which we licensed then from Clemson University, to get this whole thing going, that there was an immediate opportunity and an immediate need to leverage better ways of growing cells to connect them and make them actually predictive of what happens in a body.
I can't see you not being overly accepted in the market, but that's my opinion. Speaking about market, please tell our audience about, and I'm not going to hold you to it, no one will, but how soon do you think this will be in use?
Well, so let's first talk about how the market will accept this. And I'll say that we have done our homework and talked to even NCCN panel members. NCCN is the organization which provides the guidelines for care of cancer patients. And we've received very good feedback that this is something that would change the way that they do their job, that would change the way that they would select drugs if we can back it with the data. And so that's why we have an emphasis on providing those kinds of clinical studies which they need and want to prove that it works. And then also to address payer communities' concerns and legitimate concerns to say, is this going to really save us money? Is it really going to be predictive? So that's our focus right now. And then we sort of have a phased approach where we have a lead program in ovarian that will be followed by breast, and sort of, we have that big chart that's sort of staggered, right, where one thing starts and the other one and the other one. And so it's not unrealistic to think that we would be offering this in an unreimbursed situation sometime next year in 2015. And then from there, the question is, how long will these studies take? And we're optimistic about that, but maybe we won't put a timeline on reimbursement because it's a fluid situation, and we
always is. Question: what does KIYATEC stand for?
Great, another good question. We were looking for something with meaning that was also unique. And so for those of you out there, and maybe I'm dating myself a little bit, but there's a movie called Fiddler on the Roof, and there's a very famous scene where they say L'chaim. So Chaya, and I'm not Jewish, and I'm certain I mispronounced that. But
no, you didn't. You got it pretty good.
The word Kaya, we took Chaya and made it into Kaya, tech and technology. So in some sense, and Kaya means life. So in that great scene, they're saying to life, to life. So the company has its roots in its very early formation in the idea that we wanted to replicate life ex vivo and do a good job at it so that we could connect it back to the patient. So Life Technologies, KIYATEC.
And the website is?
KIYATEC.com, KIYATEC.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Matthew Gevaert, KIYATEC, a private company. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNNLive. We're at the SEMDA Southeastern Medical Device Association 2014 here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thanks very much, Shelley.
Matthew, my pleasure.